Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our favorite dash cam, the Black View, and their new driver monitoring system dash cams that can help you stay safe on the road. Introducing the Black View AI-powered driver monitoring system lineup. The Blackview driver monitoring camera DMC200 is available with a choice of 3 road-facing cameras featuring 4K, full HD recording, or built-in LTE. All the models support cloud connectivity, making them compatible with the Blackview cloud and fleet tracking services. The driver monitoring camera is designed to reliably detect a range of driver behaviors in diverse circumstances. The DMC200 can accurately recognize drowsiness, distraction patterns, and more. In the case of drowsiness, which is the most critical status to track, the camera includes 2 alert levels. In addition to the real-time alerts, including beep sound and blinking colored LEDs, the DMC200 generates notifications and driving reports as long as the camera is connected to Blackview Cloud. But that's not all. While the driver monitoring features are the DMC200's main focus, the wide field of view and image quality of the infrared camera sporting a Sony Starvis sensor make it a great option to record the interior of the vehicle as well. Blackview driver monitoring system dash cams, making sure you get to your destination safely. Go to blackview.com/TST, BLACKVUE.com/TST to learn more about the Blackview DMS dash cam lineup. Use promo code TIRE to get 10% off any Blackview dash cam. Free shipping for orders over $200. Also brought to you today by HelloFresh. I love HelloFresh. You get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I love HelloFresh because they always arrive fresh at my doorstep. They get there from the farm in under a week. They saved me a trip to the farmer's market, saved me a trip to the grocery store. I love farmer's markets, but they always seem to be missing the thing I want when I get there. It can be very frustrating, even though the farmers are very nice and the things are delicious. Not so with HelloFresh. You're never missing items. Plus, the ingredients are pre-portioned, so you're not overbuying or wasting food, but it's easier than ever to get filling meals on the table in a snap with options like family-friendly or quick and easy. When I get the HelloFresh recipes, it usually takes me 30 to 40 minutes from opening the bag to serving food, right? They say, that's actually pretty much exactly what they say. And what I love about HelloFresh, because I love cooking, so it doesn't feel like it's a substitute for cooking. It's a complement to cooking. It makes cooking fun. You know how owning a car is fun, driving it is fun, but the maintaining it part of it sucks? That's kind of like how HelloFresh is, right? It's cooking, the cooking part of it you're doing. You don't have to do the shopping, you don't have to do the searching, you don't have to figure out what am I going to make tonight? I don't know. You can really pick and choose from their website all these dishes. There's all these different kinds. There's vegetarian options. There's the luxurious options. You can change proteins or sides for another with the Hello Custom offerings. It's great, especially if you like to cook. That's why I really like HelloFresh so much. I make a meal from them at least once a week. It's always great. Go to HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire16 and use code SmokingTire16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. So you can follow me on that, HelloFresh.com/SmokingTire16. And then use code SmokingTire16, and that gets you 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Yeah, buddy. Are you an at-home mechanic? Does your car need fixing? You got a dent? Maybe you're restoring an old classic? Look into Evercoat Body Shop. It's not an actual body shop. It's products to do body work at home. Simple 3-step process. Prep, fill, sand. Their perfect mix guide makes it easy to get the right ratio of filler and cream hardener. It dries in about 15 minutes and sands up to 50% faster than the competition, so there's less waiting around. Evercoat is the #1 brand used by professionals, and you can find it, Evercoat Body Shop products, at your nearest Advance Auto Parts store. You get a flawless finish, takes the guesswork out of it. It's easy on steel, fiberglass, and other substrates. And again, ask for Evercoat Body Shop products by name at your local Advance Auto Parts store. Last but certainly not least, we're brought to you in part today by 10,000. Their workout gear is excellent. I wore my 10,000 shorts this morning to Pilates class. They make the highest quality, best fitting, and most comfortable training shorts I've ever worn. I've been wearing the 7-inch interval short and the versatile shirt. The interval short, let me tell you about these shorts. I have been for the longest time wearing like mesh basketball shorts to Pilates class. And they're cool, they're comfortable, right? They breathe well and all that. But because they're long, because they're basketball shorts, when I do stuff on my knees, they get kind of caught up in the machine and stuff, right? So these 10,000 7-inch interval shorts, they're long enough where I don't feel like I'm wearing Daisy Dukes, but they're short enough where they just go right above my knee so that when I'm doing this stuff, it's not getting caught up, right? They've got the silver ion for odor protection, no bounce pockets, they're breathable, the lightweight shell fabric is excellent, and there's an optional liner, very comfortable, prevents chafing. The versatile shirt is a great workout shirt. It's lightweight, breathable, durable, survives the dryer, right? Doesn't shrink up on you. It's great. In addition to the interval short, they make gear specific to other types of training, from running to Olympic lifting to boxing. You can find the shorts for the ways that you train. They come to where you are. You don't have to go where they are, right? They believe in being better than yesterday, a stoic dedication to continuous improvement, not overnight success. They have a team of over 200 athletes testing their gear and one fat man who does a podcast to ensure the perfect design, fabric, trims, and fit. They got free shipping, free returns, and a lifetime guarantee. I really like these shorts. They're super comfortable. The size is right for me. XXL, it's how we do it, and they're really good for working out. Like basketball shorts are great for basketball, but these shorts are really good for this type of Pilates that I do, which is called Legree method, Megaformer Pilates. It's really hard. I feel like I'm going to die every single time I do it. I feel like I'm never getting any better at it, but that's just because I'm doing it more right and it's getting harder. But I love gear that doesn't make you look sweaty. Right? It vents that sweat. It doesn't like cling to it in the shirt. And the 10,000 versatile shirt and 7-inch interval short both do that. So here's the deal. 10,000 is offering our listeners 15% off your purchase price. Go to 10,000.cc/smoking. Write it out. Not the number, the spelling. TENTHOUSAND, 10,000.cc/smoking to receive 15% off your purchase. 10,000.cc/smoking, 15% off site-wide. All right, folks, this episode of the podcast features Zach and I at home. Zach went racing in Sonoma or Laguna, somewhere up north, came back with the COVID. Out of commission. He's feeling better, but staying at home like a good, responsible boy. So we're doing this crew show over Zoom. We are talking about the disastrous public charging experience I had going to Las Vegas. We are talking about the 911 Turbo S I drove this past week. We're giving a little bit of information, but not driving impressions of the all-new Nissan Z and more. It's the crew show from home. The Smoking Tire Podcast starts now. Hopefully, we don't have to do this very often.
Yes,
it's the first time ever, right? 700 and whatever episodes. The first time we've ever had to do it from a different place.
You and I did a few Zoom shows at the very beginning of lockdown things, I think.
Did we?
Yeah. We did. Yeah. I remember this.
I must have mentally fucking blocked that shit out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're back for the same reason.
Back for the same reason. You almost made it. You got really close.
It was nice. I hadn't had COVID in a couple of years, and so I was like, let's revisit this.
Did you get it before?
quite sure, but it was
Oh
before
yeah, you thought you had it coming back from Tahiti, right? But nobody like there
testing
were
didn't
no
exist
tests.
unless you
Yeah,
were in the emergency room, and they wouldn't
right,
admit Sarah to the emergency room because she wasn't dying, even though she asked to go.
right, right.
So
Oh, all right. So round two every couple of years. It's good. It's good for you. Keeps you on your toes.
right.
Keeps you fucking shucking and jiving.
It reminds me what a pain in the ass it is to be sick. But anyway,
Yeah. I tried to schedule a second booster, and because I didn't, they would have basically the online portal wasn't like it's like I said, are you immunocompromised? And I said no. And they were like, yeah, well, go fuck yourself. No. If I just checked the yes box, I could have probably snuck through there. But I think I mean, I just went to Vegas for a day, and there were no, let's just say there were no protocols in Las Vegas at all, period. But I guess, so far so good.
yeah,
We'll see. But yeah, you feeling all right? Ish?
better, a little better today. Yeah, like every day was a little worse, and then every day it gets a little bit better, but it's still weird.
Fucking
It's just
Sam
annoying.
Smith. Damn it, Sam.
Yeah, it turns out if you just sit in close quarters with somebody and talk directly to them from 2 feet away, when they're asymptomatic and the next day they're symptomatic, you're like, that's how you get sick.
At least you were responsible enough to fucking stay home and not get anybody else sick.
Yeah, that felt like the right
I
thing.
appreciate that.
I know you do, and every press, I was going to go on 2 press launches this week, one with you, and I just emailed them like, hey, I hate to throw a wrench in this. And they're like, this is fine. We've had people show up at the event and test positive, and we had to tell them you can't come in. They're like, so this is much better.
What was the other one other than the Z?
I was going to go on the Genesis GV60 launch.
Oh yeah.
It was a local one, like in LA. And I'm really glad I told them no on Monday, because Tuesday I woke up and I felt like death.
Well, in Vegas, you would have been a fucking super spreader for sure.
Exactly.
Right. You would have been, it would have been a real problem.
I could have taken out 2 car companies in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then everybody would be like, you're clearly paid by Ford, because look what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So I guess no GV60. We're gonna have to get that one as a loaner later in the cycle. Well, the 400Z launch was good. There was literally like you would have been. We were both going to go. It's rare that you and I go on launches together, but this one was gonna be that. But there was like, other than Dan Edmonds was there, but he was pretty much the only other person there that I knew. Everyone else was was people I hadn't really hung out with before. And we got a little bit of track time. It wasn't like real track time. Like, they were nice about it, and some track time is better than no track time, I guess. But it was straight up like lead follow. It was not the kind of track time that would have made for a good video. And literally I didn't get to drive it on the street and then do track time. It was like I went from nothing to lapping. So that's a very tricky, and this is not just about the new Z, but like to not drive anything at all, to show up off the street and go straight to a track. You haven't felt the clutch, you haven't felt the brakes, you haven't felt anything. And there you are on a track. And all we got was like a couple of lead follow sessions. So, some experience is better than no experience. And there were certain elements that I did learn, particularly driving both the manual and the automatic in the same exact, setting. It wasn't like real track time. So I can't talk about the driving impressions or pricing until May 16th. So I'm doing a story on Road and Track. We got the video, but we have a Just Noise video, which is really all the track was good for, was doing a Just Noise video. And for that it's fine. But I can talk about non-driving impressions of the Z. But before I talk about the Z at all, I should talk about getting to the Z launch, because it was a fucking disaster. So we were going to fly to Vegas together. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Vegas is a tough one because flying versus driving, we happen to live pretty close to the airport. So most of the time flying, if you're going to Vegas and then you're going to be staying like on the strip somewhere near the airport, because the airport in Vegas is near the strip, then it's usually worth it to fly. And if you don't have to check bags, then it's worth it to fly. If you have to check bags, if you're going to Pahrump or somewhere far from the strip, or it's like then often, or you live far from LAX, like then it's like not worth flying. Then it's like really kind of a wash. But in this case, it was worth flying. And I was leaving my flight was at like 1:30 p.m. Hannah was coming back from a work trip and she was landing at like 8 p.m. Okay. So rather than me, and oh, by the way, I had to stop at WCCS on the way to the airport and pick up my computer and a couple other things for my trip. Okay. So it was either I take 2 Ubers one to the shop and then one to the airport, and then Hannah takes another Uber home. Or I was like, we could both use our phones to unlock and drive the Mach-E. So I was like, I'll just drive the Mach-E, pick up my shit, go to the airport, park it in the fucking lot, and then Hannah will come grab the car later. And it's only a couple hours. So that would be like $30 total versus, whatever 3 different Ubers would be. Plus Hannah wouldn't have to lug her shit to the Uber offsite lot and blah, blah, blah. I never, ever drive to the airport, but this seemed like a reasonable decision at the time until I got to the airport. And I have never in my 15 years in Los Angeles or 13 years in Los Angeles seen a shit show at LAX like this. Never. I mean, fucking never have seen anything like it. Not only was the traffic going through the airport fucking abysmal, and I gave myself like a pretty decent cushion considering I am diamond status and no checked bags. Like once I'm out of the car, I'm at the gate in 4 minutes, with pre-check and no checked bags and digital boarding passes and all that. I could have shown up late as fuck and made this flight. And I'm the kind of person who shows up usually pretty early and then sits around the lounge for an hour and a half. And so anyway, not only is the traffic a complete fucking disaster, every single parking lot is full and coned off.
Because I think a lot of this, they've taken up a lot of space for the construction, right? Because they're building a train there right now. They're also building another terminal or refurbing a terminal. Right. So there's a lot of those spots have been taken by like materials and workers.
This is it, but this is at noon on a Wednesday. And I've never seen Terminal 1, Terminal 2, and I'm inching my way around the fucking loop. And every terminal, there's a sign that says, T2 full, go to T3, T3 full, go to T4, T4 full, go all the way around. And by the end, it's T7 full, go to economy parking. I don't even know where the fuck economy parking is. As you I've never needed it. As you exit the airport, there's no sign that says economy parking. So it took me, the loop to go through LAX is about a mile long. Maybe it's a little more than, maybe it's a mile and a half the whole way around the loop, right? Past all the terminals. Mm-hmm. It took me 42 minutes to do that loop. And I am sweating.
Yeah, that's a
freaking
loop. Oh my
freaking
God.
The fuck out. And by the time I even got to the economy parking lot, it's like 1:08 and my flight is at 1:30. I get to the economy lot and there's like 200 cars lined up, blocks and blocks down the road to get in this motherfucker. God. At which point I just go,
not gonna make it.
I'm in a car. I'm in the Mach-E, which fucking thank God had, most of it had like 90% charge. So I'm like, fuck it, driving. So I just got on the fucking 105 and just started driving. And I called, Nissan. I said, look, here's what happened and I'm driving and I'll probably be there for dinner. Okay, fine. I'm on the road. I stop in Baker World Best Gyro USA, at the same EV Go station that you and I had trouble with going to SEMA.
Right.
Plug in. And if you recall, when we stopped there before going to SEMA, the problem was with the app. The app wouldn't connect to the station to charge the car.
Right.
So I go, yeah, fuck this app, dude. Pull up to the 150 charger, plug in, swipe the Visa, right? Analyze, whatever, card approved, charging initialized, charging stopped. Charge it. Okay, do it again. Charging initialized, charging stopped 4 times.
Oh my God.
And then I tried 2 different chargers also. Now I call the phone number. I go, hey man, here's where I am, the big thermometer in Baker says my card is approved, and then it canceled the charge. Oh, well, we've been having problems with our credit card readers. Just read me your credit card number over the phone. So I read this guy my credit card number over the phone.
The future of transportation.
And now it works. Now it's charging. Okay. And even though it's a 150 charger, it's only charging at 45.
And was there anybody else plugged in around?
Nobody else is there. I'm by my fucking self.
That's weird.
Okay. So, but it's charging. And I tell the guy on the phone, I go, bro, I'm in the middle of the goddamn desert here. This is a credit card swiper. I go, this isn't a problem getting electricity into the vehicle. This is a problem reading a credit card, processing a credit card. I was like, the gas stations figured this out in the 90s, man. Dude, let's fucking go.
Children with lemonade stands have a square that reads a credit card, no problem. Like farmers market.
And he goes, well, if you use the app, you wouldn't have had this problem. I wanted to jump through the fucking phone and kill this fucking guy. And so I'm worried about, missing the, being late. I don't want to be late to the dinner and whatever. So I charge up to, I got there with like 25% charge. I charge up to 55%.
Just enough to get you to Vegas.
Just enough to get me to Vegas. I forget that the 30 miles after Baker are uphill, straight uphill. So I burned.
This is the most stressful day you've ever had.
I burned through like 100 miles of charge in 30 miles. So I now realize I am not going to make it to Las Vegas. I didn't charge
even with
enough.
the hill on the other side.
Well, I didn't want to count on that.
Okay.
I maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if the hill down is enough to counter the hill up.
Right.
So fortunately, there's a rest area with a free charger. It's a 50, but it's free. It's Las Vegas DOT free. So I stop there and I plug in again. I spend about 25 minutes there, get enough, and I get enough charge, and I make it to the Aria Hotel with 40 miles left on the charge. So like I might have just barely made it. Without stopping. I might have, because but if
you don't, you're in the desert, and
you're literally in the fucking desert, right? So because the last 15 miles into Vegas are downhill. So yeah. So the Aria has 4 level 2 EV chargers. That's what we've got at the shop. Those put on about 15 miles per hour. And I go, if I can plug into one of these now, then I'll have enough, to go home on the other side. I pull up to the chargers, which are in the self-park area, and they're right up front, right next to the door where you'd walk into the casino. There are 4 EVs parked at the chargers, none of which are plugged in. They're just using them as fucking VIP spaces. 2 Tesla Model Ys, an i8, and a Model S. Just plugged in, sitting there, not fucking plugged in. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking shitting me. So I go in.
You ask the valets or anything?
Yeah. And they go, well, it's not, these aren't valet spots. They're self-parked. There's nothing we can do. Great. Thanks.
That is so dumb.
So what they should do is not let you self-park in those. They should valet the cars into those and then move them somewhere else when they're fucking done charging.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, what's the time limit on one of these? The guy goes, oh, well, I don't know. So, great. So we go to dinner, and I'm not drinking. I haven't been drinking, and I'm still not drinking. And so after dinner, we go to the dinner and whatever, I go, maybe someone's fucking vacated. So I go back, same 4 cars are still there. Next morning, and I go, okay, so I have 40 miles on this charge. Now what do I do?
Right.
So next morning I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and there's a 50 charger at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And I go, all right, if I get up and I go there and have some coffee and read a book for a little while there, I'll have enough to get back to Baker, which was true. I did. I went and I had coffee at this fucking gas station at the Speedway, and I read it. I read a quarter of Seth Rogen's book, which is funny. I like it. And now I begin my press launch day with this. So, but I've got enough to get back to Baker. Okay. I do the press launch. I'm driving the new Z for several hours. Okay. And we'll come back to that. Driving home, the winds in the desert are blowing about 30 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Sand. It's crazy. I'm being blown all over the place. I make it to Baker, but I use quite a bit more juice than I thought I was going to in Baker. I try a different EV charger in Baker. I try the Electrify America instead. Because I had time at the other one, I made sure all my apps were set up. All my billing was set up. My profiles were completely filled out. I wanted as little room for error as possible.
Right.
So I plug in. Again, this motherfucker is charging in a 150 charger at like 55 kilowatts. So I go get a gyro for lunch. I'm sitting around. I'm reading more of Seth Rogen's book. Baker's like 190 miles from my house. I charge to 260 miles to 83% charge.
Hey, wait, were you the only car charging at that time as well?
Yeah. Oh, there might have been one other one. There might have been one other car, but it's like a 15 bank. It's big.
Yeah. I was just wondering why it's charging at a third of what it should.
So I sit there for an hour. I charge up to 260, like 250, 260 miles, and I have to go 190 miles. I figure, okay, this is no problem. Well, this wind picks up, and I'm driving straight into it. And in the first 50 miles of driving, I use 90 miles of electricity. I got to stop again.
Oh my God.
So I now stop in Hesperia, which is like methy McMeth land. And there's a charger, a 62 kilowatt charger at a Motel 6 in Hesperia. So I stopped there again. And the Mach-E was the most expensive car for a quarter of a mile in any direction. And so I am just a magnet of methy McMeth heads. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone's checking me out. I walked a few laps around the hotel and immediately realized I shouldn't have even got out of the fucking car. It was sketchy. But I charge up again. And now I finally had enough juice to get home. And I got home with like 25 miles remaining on the charge.
So in total, you had to stop five times?
I had to charge 1, 2. I charged 4 times to get home. 4 times round trip.
Jeez, that's a nightmare.
It super sucked. Sucked.
I guess you didn't talk to customer service. I'm just so curious why these things are charging it so much lower than what they advertise or what they're capable of. That's really
I don't know. Someone DM'd me and on Instagram and said that and owned a Mach-E and was apparently an engineer at Google, part of the Android Auto team, and said there is some kind of update for the Mach-E that allows that the 2022s have, and they will charge faster than the 21. Now I've gotten 150 before in my car, so I don't know what's going on. And there were a lot of people who commented on my posts. They well, you just got a Tesla, and that might be true. The Tesla network doesn't have some of the problems that the other public network has, but I believe that the main reason that network doesn't have a lot of these problems is because it's only for Teslas. Okay, so it eliminates the billing issues, because billing is either free if you got that plan, or it just goes through the car, through your account. There's no credit card reader. There's no, app. It's connected directly to the car. And also, I don't believe that the capital costs, the infrastructure cost, the electricity cost of having a one make charger set is actually good for the earth. You know what I mean? Like imagine imagine we went back 80 or 90 years and every car needed its own brand of gas. I mean, imagine what a fucking shit show that would be of gas stations for us today. You know what I mean?
That's why there's such an argument about having, a universal charger, the J277 versus Tesla, because at a certain point, you can't have a total monopoly on these kinds of things. Yeah.
Right. And the answer can't just be, we'll buy a Tesla, because that's just monopolistic.
Right.
Right. It's that reduces your choice. Not to mention it's contrary to Tesla's own stated goal of accelerating EV adoption. Saying I want to accelerate EV adoption. Oh, but only with my EVs is not. I mean, that's a capitalistic for sure, but you can't pretend like you're saving the planet by doing that. You're hoarding resources. You're creating a walled garden, and so yes, in the short term, you would have fewer issues like I described if you were charging and road tripping a Tesla. That might be true, but in the grand scheme of a global EV transition, having a whole bunch of chargers that only can charge one kind of car is actually bad.
Well, and also, so I was on Kyle Connor's podcast last week, Out of Spec, and he said that him and some of his team, they did a test where they each took a different EV and they drove from Fort Collins, Colorado to Vegas. And they did it. And so one person took a Tesla and the other two drove other EVs because they wanted to see how does the road trip infrastructure work for other vehicles. And the Tesla came in third, for whatever reason. So now,
because if you took a Lucid or a Taycan, you could probably charge at 350. And if the chargers were well placed, you could actually charge faster.
Yeah, I think one of them was a Lucid. I don't know what the third car was.
The other one was an e-tron or a Taycan. It could use a 350.
So they found the right chargers and they charged at max capacity.
Yeah.
And then they were able to beat, the Tesla. So it may just be that the Tesla system is more robust because it's been out for longer. I mean,
you wouldn't have the problem. Every problem that we've had, whether it's me and you together or me by myself, has been billing related. It's not necessarily been the flow of electrons.
But you had a problem with the flow of electrons, though. Like you would have saved time and therefore gotten more charge if you would charge at the 100% capacity.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. But the real that's not as frustrating as getting somewhere and then having it not work. That's much more frustrating than charging slower than expected.
It's more concerning too, because you go, well, what if I've tested 3 of these? What if the 4th one doesn't work at all because they don't have this hardware software issue fixed? Yeah, that is definitely more concerning. Wow.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Really, what a fucking disaster. And it really sucks because road tripping an EV while you're driving is lovely. It's smooth, it's quiet. I like, I like the stereo, the seats are comfortable. I had the phone. So when I was coming back from driving the Z and it was 97 degrees out, I could power the car on and turn the climate control on, and have it nice for getting back in it. That stuff is really nice. And it's not like I couldn't find chargers. It's not like the chargers don't exist. Like, they exist. They're there. They're easy to find. They're well marked. They come up in Google Maps. Google Maps even shows the number of ones that are open, in real time. It'll say 3 of 15 of these are being used. But it's the same kind of problem as integrating phones with cars. Integrating, if you want, making Apple CarPlay or Android Auto work across all types of vehicles is a much more difficult problem to solve than just saying, no, we've got our own interface.
Yep. Because every car company has to develop their own interface,
correct,
and then adopt or marry an Android Auto or Apple
correct.
CarPlay.
And there'll be people who say, well, but Tesla announced that they're going to make their network open. I looked this up, actually. Tesla's network is in a pilot program in order to work with non-Teslas. And the countries that pilot program is in France, the Netherlands, and Norway. It's not in America. There are no plans for it to be in America. And you must own, you can use those if you're visiting also from Germany or Belgium. And I asked Ed Niedermeyer, I go, there's got to be a reason for this. Why would you do this? And the long and short of it is there is an EU directive, not a mandate, it's a directive, which is a little bit different. Where's the text? Niedermeyer, sorry. So the EU directive basically is called the European Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Master Plan. And it basically encourages countries to pass laws. Mm-hmm. The directive itself can't make the laws. The directive encourages countries to pass laws for open access. But they haven't done this in America. There's no law for this in America. So the only real reason, there's 2 reasons. One is this EU directive, and the other is that the EU directive has allocated billions of dollars to flood the zone with public chargers. Like, they must install, and I have the article here, for vehicles, they will install 14,000 public charging points per week in Europe. Per week? Per week between 2021 and 2030. They require 6.8 million public charging points by 2030. 184 charging points for every 100 kilometers of road cars. Now, interestingly,
14,000 a week?
A week in Europe. That's so many. It's 6.8 million by 2030.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then also 279,000 points for trucks, 56,000 for buses. There's a bunch more. $280 billion will be invested in private and public charging. So in Europe, the governments are about to just destroy the walled garden thing anyway. Tesla chargers are not actually considered public in the EU. They're considered private because they only work with Teslas. Mm-hmm. So in order to try to get ahead of this a little bit, plus the directives, that's why in these small European countries, they've started the pilot program where they're allowing to do it. It is not, you cannot charge a non-Tesla at a Tesla charger in America. And according to Tesla's own website, there are no plans to make that happen anytime soon.
Because there's no directive for it right now. Yeah.
Right.
And they don't have enough competition.
In my opinion, as I said before, the infrastructure required to have these high-speed chargers, the electricity required, because although they've said they want them to be renewable, very few of the Tesla superchargers are actually renewable. Very, very few, very small percentage. In my opinion, that is not good for the world. It's monopolistic, and it might be good in the short term if you already have a Tesla and want to road trip it, but it's not actually helping the environment. So anyway, that's my thoughts on, once again, EV road tripping in America right now. And I'm about to do it again next weekend. Literally next weekend. Marco from TLG and myself are driving the Lucid to Phoenix for Pearl Jam. So maybe we'll have a different experience with the Lucid. Oh, hi, Cricket. You want to come up? There's some cat action in the background.
Yeah, there is.
So anyway, back to the Z, which in the Just Noise video, I mistakenly called the 400Z, which is what people have been casually calling it, but it's really just the Z. So my mistake for fucking that up in the maybe it's possible. You might be able to trim it. You might be able to trim it. I don't know. But if I fuck it up, I fuck it up. What can I talk about? It's a very nice looking car. The square mouth that I didn't love in the concept works much better on the street, in the flesh. They need it because of all the cooling they've put in this car. It's got trans cooler, oil cooler. The intercooler for the turbos is an air to water intercooler, which is nice, not an air to air intercooler. The throwback elements work really well with the elements that are carried over from the 370Z. When one is following you and you catch one in the rear view mirror, it looks an awful lot like a modernized 240Z.
Cool.
From that angle, you go, oh, there's the 240Z.
That's when because the new headlights are kind of the modern interpretation of those covered headlights from back then. Yeah.
Right. And if you look at the car from the side, it doesn't really look like that. But if it comes up behind you and you see the headlights, that silhouette from the front, it really is very, very 240Z. And if you look at it, if you're following one from behind, there's a lot of the 300ZX from the 90s.
Yeah, the back
tail lights as well. It's a little tight for me. Not talking about I didn't fit so great with a helmet on. Did the interior room feel similar or the same as the 370 and 350? They felt tight for me even. Yeah, it's basically the same, except there's a key difference is they've added a telescoping steering column. So you can actually bring the steering wheel a little further away from the dash, and that is an improvement. So where am I? Because they had a 370 there also, which I took a quick spin in. So I didn't really think about the telescoping steering wheel until I went back into the 370, and I went, oh, well, this steering wheel is in the wrong place, and so bringing it towards me helped. I didn't fit so good with the helmet on. I couldn't get in the car with the helmet on. I had to put the helmet on from inside the car. I couldn't duck under that. It's the seat room is very similar to Supra. It's tight. It's tight. Even honestly, even like a Miata is a little bit roomier, I think, actually.
Wow.
Because there's less things, in a Miata. There are a few things that are carried over from the 370, but in a lot of ways it feels like a new product. The digital cluster is nice. Blacks are very deep black. The visibility out of it is only okay. But they are very passionate folks about what they're doing. And I don't want to give away too much because the driving impressions are embargoed, but and I can't talk about what it costs. The engine is the Red Sport engine. There's two gearboxes, the manual 6-speed and then the 9-speed automatic with paddles. They've added a launch control function to the 9-speed. It's a simple car. There's not a lot of fancy drive modes. There's not a lot of things to adjust. The traction control goes off with just one quick tap of a button. And I think they've done a good job integrating the throwback elements without making it look too corny. You can over throwback, and you can make it kind of corny. I think the muscle cars, all three, brands of muscle car, the Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger, they all executed throwback designs pretty well. And I think this is a good continuation of that. One thing I thought was pretty interesting, and I'm going to write a little side column about for Road and Track, is that, the guy who's in charge of the program, I'm blanking on his name, he's like Mr. GTR. He was in charge of of all the GTRs and stuff. And he said the best steering wheel they've ever made was the R32 GTR steering wheel. And he said, I work with a lot of the tuners, and this guy's like a fucking full on like midnight club dude. He's showing us all these photos of these like nighttime cars and coffees that are clearly meets for like street racing. It's like 800 horsepower R32. That's awesome. And he's like, in Japan, a lot of people change their steering wheels out. He goes, but we noticed that fewer people would change the R32 steering wheel because they really just liked it. Wow. And so the size, shape, and diameter and thickness of the new Z wheel is identical to the R32. Oh, it's got a few, it's got buttons and shit on it so that the spokes are different, but the rim is the same size, shape, and diameter as the R32, which is nice. As a former R32 owner, I appreciate that.
Did it feel familiar?
I mean, it was a very nice size, shape, and diameter. I mean, I really, couldn't ask for a much better wheel. I mean, certain companies just get that shit right. Mm-hmm. Porsche gets it right. This is right. Who else really gets it right? Who else does just a great steering wheel? The Audis that we've had recently, I think, have been pretty good. BMW has hits or misses. The F80 M3 wheel and the M2 wheel are excellent, but the current M3 wheel and that new M240 one we had were not so good. They get hits once in a while. Yeah. But I thought that was nice. I wish there was some lumbar adjustment in the Z. There's no lumbar adjustment, which is a little unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. I could drive it for a couple hours, and I did, but I wouldn't want to go on a long road trip with one. If you really wanted to use one as an everyday car or a little more space, unless you're if you're under 6 feet tall, if you're under 200 pounds, it's probably fine. But for a bigger person like me, it would be a little small for an everyday car. But it had nice, good trunk space. They had a one of them fitted with a prototype Nismo exhaust that they're going to be selling. That sounded really good. The regular Z's, the standard car sounds a lot like the Red Sport. If you've heard of Red Sport, it's very familiar to that. But the Nismo exhaust sounded pretty good. That was cool. Nice. The review is pretty comprehensive. It's pretty thorough. The road they sent us up, which was out by Lake Mead, was pretty nice. They had a very cool collection of historic Zs there to look at, all the Zs throughout history. But I think it's an exciting product, and I think it fills a niche in the world the world of sports cars that needs to be, restocked from time to time. You don't want this from size, shape, dynamics, and pricing perspective. You don't want this gap to go unfilled or insufficiently filled. So between this car and the manual Supra that they've now announced, I think they're refilling this sports car aquifer. So review will be May 16th, drive impressions, but we'll have Adjust the Noise on the track, and you'll be able to The viewer will be able to gather a few bits without me actually saying anything.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say because I was looking forward to driving it. So,
Yeah. Well, we'll end up getting another one for a longer term thing as well. We talked about Hannah's Pao. We haven't talked about Hannah's birthday present yet.
That thing is,
I kept it a secret.
Adorable. And the interior is so pretty, not because it's so clean, I mean, which it is, but like the design of the interior of the buttons and the console and the shapes
Very
and everything
Art Deco
is
right?
so Art Deco. And I think almost more fitting for like an old Fiat 500. It's I don't mean any offense about this. Like the interior is prettier than the exterior.
Well, that's what
I feel like the interior is perfect.
Well, what they're going for, is to build a car that looks, pre-vintage. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like it's a car from the 80s, but it's supposed to look like a car from the 60s. And I use portrait mode here in these photos, so it's a little bit out of focus, but you can see it's got a very cool, big central gauge tack. It's actually not a tack, it's a speedometer. Like the classic Mini, it's got this kind of ivory looking 2-spoke steering wheel with these very elegant blinker and wiper stalks, these beautiful kind of airplane style vintage toggle switches for stuff. And the interior, it's got the California rollback top. It's got these cool windows that open in all these different ways. It is a lovely little thing. And I'll find out. Let me see if I can just grab a Nissan Pao, grab an interior shot that's a little more. Okay, here we go. Let me share that again. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you look at this is really. Come on, no, you gonna load? I guess I'll have to wait till. Oh, here we go. Till it loads. There we go. There we go. This is just delightful.
Yeah.
It's really, really great. And ours
really
has
cool.
Someone put a leather wrap on the steering wheel, which actually I agree with. But Hannah loves it. It is so slow.
Yeah. So I dropped you off at Fontana Nissan and I wasn't going to follow you the whole way back because I had to get back quicker. But how slow was it on the highway?
So the absolute maximum speed, I mean, really absolute, is about 130 kilometers an hour, which is around 75. It's really comfortable at about 100 to 110, which is like 60 to 65.
Right.
I mean, we should drag race the Delica. It's really the same speed as the Delica. It only weighs 1,600 pounds. It's really light.
Wow.
And it rides pretty well. It tracks straight. I mean, this example is really, it's very nice to find this one. And I haven't talked about this at all. I got it from this place, Dunkin' in Virginia, and it was an interesting experience.
I like their donuts.
Yeah.
Such a dad joke.
So they're known for being a little weird. I asked a few people about them, and they're known for being a little weird. There was a bit of a fracas on Bring a Trailer recently with these guys because they listed a 500-mile 240 SX that was 500 miles, but it had also been crashed and repaired not great. Ooh. And they didn't disclose that up front, and it became a whole thing. And I think they might be banned from Bring a Trailer. They're also banned from Cars and Bids.
Wow.
But they have they had like 20 Paos. I mean, literally they've got 20 of them. So I called. This was the nicest one in their inventory. It was also the most expensive one in their inventory. And I asked about it, and they answered some questions, but they pretty much were like, no negotiating, buyer beware. And I was like, okay.
Coming from them, you're like, hey.
So I had this was before I knew that stuff, but yeah. So I had a pre-purchase inspection done. I spent, $200 on a pre-purchase inspection. They gave me a very thorough report, and it overall, it was really nice. Great paint, no rust. Mostly pretty good. Clearly, somebody had loved it. Whoever owned this thing in Japan clearly loved it and took good care of it. But it had some, deferred maintenance that needed being done. It needed hoses, it needed filters and fluids. It had a torn CV boot, plugs, wires. Nothing major, but just a variety of little things that added up. And so I went back to the dealer, Duncan, and I said, okay, the pre-purchase inspection, revealed this stuff. And they said, no negotiating. I said, I'm not trying to negotiate. This is a gift for my wife. I need it by this certain day. You obviously go through a lot of these things. Can you help me get these items addressed? I'll pay. You have someone who works for you or a shop that you closely work with and can get these items addressed. And he said, no. And I go, you mean to tell me that you have 20 of these cars in inventory and nobody who can work on them? And they go, no. I go, great. So I called my, Sean Morris, who is the JDM expert at Top Rank. And I said, who do you have who could work on one of these? And he goes, well, I got one guy, but this month, right now, he's moving his shop and everything is packed up and he can't work on anything until May. And I went, oh, fucking perfect. So I went to Fontana Nissan, which is the place that worked on my Skyline when I had it. And they were as good as anyone could be. They said, yes, absolutely. Ship the car here. We will work on it, but we won't get the parts. We'll inspect the car. We will tell you what it needs. You get the parts and then we'll do the work. Fine. Getting the parts was a fucking nightmare. I had to get them from 3 different places, 2 in Japan, 1 in Australia. International shipping is a kind of a nightmare now.
Were the websites for the Japanese shops, do you have to use Google Translate?
Or no, they were in English. In English.
Like they know where their market is.
In English, but they were just not it was not a seamless process. There was one of the shops in Japan, in between when I placed the order and when there was probably 5 emails after I placed the order and when they actually shipped the order. And it took them almost 2.5 weeks to actually ship the order. Now, the stuff did show up in time. You know how I started this process 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And you know how no matter what the project is, it will take exactly as much time as you have. Mm-hmm. Whether it's homework or fucking business proposal or whatever. Exactly the amount of time you had. Fontana Nissan got the parts, got it into the bay, and got it finished the day before Hannah's birthday. Crazy. 1 day before. So they were great. And if you've got a JDM car and don't mind driving all the way out to fucking Fontana, they were lovely people. So shout out to them. Yeah.
And a bunch of the techs came out to look at it and they were like, wow, this one's so nice. If they'd seen it or not, they were really impressed.
Yeah, it was nice. And so it cost me, with the parts and the service, I probably had to put another $4,000 into this car, not to mention ship the fucking thing from Virginia. And then, oh, by the way, there's this big envelope in the car, thick padded envelope in the car, said, for Matt Farah on it. I didn't think much of it. And I knew it was from Duncan. It said Duncan Imports on it. And I was like, oh, it's like the owner's manual or something. And I just threw it on the floor of the car and drove home and didn't think much about it. And then I got home and I opened the the envelope, dude. And it was this book. Wait, and I have to show you what the fucking book was. It was hilarious. Wait. Oh no. Oh. The book was called, and I will share my screen to show you. God, I've got a question. Biblical truth for our deepest concerns.
So it is a manual.
It is a shop manual.
It's a manual.
It's a shop manual for your brain, for your
soul.
And then there was all these pamphlets in there about how to not go to hell.
Wow.
These dudes are including all this Jesus freak shit in their cars.
But they don't have a tech who could work on the cars they sell. Where now, what does the Bible say about selling a car that was crashed, restored badly, and then sold under the pretense that it has not been crashed? Is that Genesis or is that Deuteronomy or
the book of Numbers? It's the book of Numbers.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I did the pre-purchase inspection, and the car was, as the report revealed. And Hannah loves it. I love it. I think it's hilarious. It's just, it's slow as dog shit. I thought the wheels that were on, it's got aftermarket wheels on it. And I thought originally that those were Panasport wheels.
They're in that style for sure.
But they are, but the wheels themselves are actually a Watanabe wheel, which is a Japanese take on the Panasport. And it's got these cool fog lights on it, and it's a good little city runabout.
Totally.
Yeah, it's fucking cool as shit.
Probably don't want to drive it to San Diego and back, but
no, we have, but fortunately there's no problem at all road tripping the EV we have.
Exactly. Your most practical cars are not that practical.
I know, right? So anyway,
long distance drives are going to be reserved for the Countach.
Right. Additionally, I spent a week with the 992 Turbo S, which is just, extraordinary. So fast. There's nothing it doesn't do well.
Yep.
It's expensive, but it's just, it's mental. It's a momentum car and a power car. It's a luxury car and a supercar. It's a practical car, and it's just like the most universal that a car can be. It's the lowest powered car to ever run in the nines. Runs a 9.9 at 139 with 640 horsepower. It
is a rare thing where a car, I think, is as deserving of its price as that one. I mean, it's one of those ones where you go, well, yeah, I mean, it does everything. Like it's almost without compromise.
Yeah, it's as quick to 150 as the 918 Spider is, and it's less than a quarter of the price.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So we got a video coming out with that. It's the 0 to 30 is 0.8.
That's insane. The measurement of your time starts with 0.
Yeah, it's a 0.8.
God, they're amazing.
Yeah, and I said in my original review of this car 2 years ago that most people there's no difference. Most people can't really drive fast enough where there's a real difference between an S and a GTS and a turbo. And because they're all turbo motors and they all feel the same type of power delivery, you might as well save your money. And I still kind of believe that. I mean, there's not a lot of difference at less than full throttle, between those cars. And so it is harder to justify than when the S and stuff were naturally aspirated and you got a truly different feel. Now that they're all turbos, obviously except the GT3, it's tougher to justify why to get this one with more turbo. But
perhaps it's a thing where it's like it's harder to justify stretching your budget a bit. Which when before it was worth it if you could make that stretch. If it wasn't a stretch, then yeah, of course, who cares? Then it's about stunting and badges and just knowing you have the better one. But now, if the feel is similar, then why overextend yourself or extend yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So it's only really if you've got the money, you want the craziest thing out there. Hi, Cricket. Then yeah. Sure.
If I had that much, super disposable income, I think it'd be so great to buy one of those, have Joey lift it 2 inches and crisscross the country for like a year or two, just tires, no snow tires, whatever, because they are so capable at everything. So
you don't need to lift it. You just need to not get the PASM, because this one had the PASM sport suspension, which is which is 0.4 inches lower, and a little firmer. And so, you don't get the lightweighting kit, get the comfort seats, don't get the PASM, get the regular height suspension, and then 99.9% of the ways it's as fast as you'll ever want to go. Totally. It just doesn't have that extra level of extreme that doesn't even matter most of the time.
To most people it's not important.
Yeah. Wow. Real crazy.
That's amazing.
Real crazy.
0.8.
0.8. Right. So and last portion notice, apparently, allegedly, I heard from my dealer. Now that's not alleged. That was real. I did hear from my dealer. And apparently, the factory is running, and I can expect my car, so they say, in July.
That is soon.
Yeah. Still no ceramic brakes. So the fact that I went out and bought, I bought my own ceramic brakes. I don't know if I mentioned that on the show yet, but I found Deman had a set of rotors that they took off a 2018 GT4 when it was brand new. So the rotors had like 100 miles on them. And it's the same rotor. I got one of the very few remaining sets of calipers from Germany, from the Porsche parts department, and pads from them. So I had to, rather than rolling it into the financing of the car, I had to pay quite a lot of money in cash for ceramic brakes. But
you'll have the brakes.
I have the brakes, and even though they won't come with the car from Germany, Demand will put them on before I ever drive a single mile in the car. So it'll be as if they were brand new. Plus, Demand has already painted the calipers red, and if they were from Porsche, they would have to be yellow, which would look very weird on my build. So there's that. Got a few questions from the folks?
We have many.
All right, many. You can choose. You choose the ones you think are the most interesting.
I feel like we have a lot of people ask about Elon buying Twitter, but we literally talked about it, I think, for 10 to 15 minutes on the last crew show last week.
Yeah.
So now it's just like confirmed it's going to happen, but I don't think that would change the feelings of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. In general, the sort of authoritarian, this thing has problems and only I can fix it. That's authoritarian and bad. The fact that something has problems can be true, but the only I can fix it, especially when I is a person that has the history that person does with how they use Twitter, which is as a bully.
Right. I think that's the bigger problem, because I think every company, they can be selling like headphones. They go present a problem, we have the solution. Or if it's a founder, I have the solution to it. But the bigger issue is that he is like used Twitter maliciously with the whole, I forgot about this, but like, they're like, isn't this the guy that called the person rescuing those children a pedophile? Yeah. And then went to court for it? You're like, oh, that's right. This person
and committed securities fraud, was convicted of that using Twitter, has gotten people, that Montana skeptic guy, that guy was criticizing him and talking about short selling, and he went around to this guy's boss and had his job threatened. I mean, this is someone who uses Twitter like a bully. And so while it's very bad for, yes, billionaires control our digital infrastructure, whether it's Google or Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or Jeff Bezos at Amazon. And that's bad. That's bad no matter how you slice it. But someone who starts a platform and then becomes a billionaire because of its success is one thing. And that's bad. And that I think that I'd love to see that addressed somehow. But someone who is like uses a platform as a bully and a troll and uses it like a weapon, who employs bots because the LA Times story on the 12th showed the amazing use of bots in the pro Tesla discourse. For that person to then come in and take control and use that money to buy more power, to buy the discourse, to push the discourse, that is actually worse.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting thing to watch because there are a lot of people that are unhappy with Twitter for a variety of reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And they see a new person taking power as like, well, they will solve my problem with Twitter, even if people have different problems with Twitter. And that's the same with politicians and everything else. It's just like, this person will change the thing I don't like because they're different than Jack. And we don't know what will happen with a new person at the helm, but here's what I do know history is concerning.
He doesn't actually give a shit about freedom of speech. He gives a shit about removing barriers to accountability from himself. He doesn't want Twitter to be able to ban him. He doesn't want the SEC to be able to fuck with him. He doesn't want his critics to be able to criticize him. And buying this platform and pushing the algorithms and the staff, changing the management to people that are loyal to him, it's not that it's going to be a 100% shift, but even if he gets a 5 or 10% shift in his direction, that's worth it. Mm-hmm. You know, Twitter is a weapon for this guy, and buying it is an insurance policy against having that communication system be taken away, or have his message be threatened at some point. You know, they billionaires and power people like this, you know, buy methods of communication, whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or Google search algorithms, you know, to shore up their own wealth and power. And it's not First Amendment, because there's no constitutional right to fucking tweet. It's, you know, there's no, it's not, the government is not even if you're banned from Twitter for life, like Trump is, your First Amendment has not, your freedom of speech has not been violated. That's not what the First Amendment is. That's not how it works. Just like you can't go into a bar and start dropping N-bombs and get thrown out of the bar. Your First Amendments have not been violated unless the cops come and arrest you for saying that stuff. Your First Amendment has not been, or your freedom of speech has not been violated there. So it's not a freedom of speech issue. He hasn't used Twitter in a way where his behavior is defending freedom of speech. He says that, but his behavior says, actually, the freedom of speech really does have limits. It's when you say some shit I don't like. That's when I have no problem trying to stop you from saying those things, whether it's a short seller or a critic or sicking his followers on journalists or Bill Gates like last week, you know, or whatever. So yeah, it's no matter what your problem is with Twitter, and this is going to sound like a speech from the American president, but whatever your problem is with Twitter, Elon is not interested in solving your fucking problem. He's interested in shoring up his own power and removing any type of accountability to what he wants to say and do on Twitter.
It's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah.
I think we'll see what happens. What
else you
got? Charlie Steele asked, what is a palate cleanser car? Quote, like after driving a bunch of supercars or high-end luxury cars back to back, do you find we need to readjust before viewing something different? I think
it's always been challenging. Yeah.
I think like driving like Zach Bowman's Mustang or just being around or old cars is very helpful, because it can kind of remind you where we used to be. And then you start to look at even cheap cars today as being very good. And then it reconnects you just with like, what were the problems that have been solved by everybody, you know, whether it was reactive steering or understeer or whatever. That kind of is a good palate cleanser. It resets your barometer a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I you don't even have to go that old. I mean, go drive a Rolls Royce from the 90s, you know,
just leans over, touches its ears in every corner.
Not particularly fast, not particularly luxurious, not particularly interesting in any way. And you go, you know, this used to be the epitome, or the epitome of what what we could do. That's a lot of the problems, and it's a good, not really answer the question. It is an answer to this guy's question, but it's also, there's a lot of appeal on the internet, especially with Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids and collecting cars, to buy a depreciated luxury car, like an older Bentley or an older Rolls Royce or a Mercedes from the 90s, or like Glucker with his Jaguar. And you realize that these cars look good and in photos, and they might be comfortable, but they're not particularly exciting. And you find that the reason to buy a vintage car is because of the sort of fizz it gives you, and without that fizz, you just kind of got this old driving experience,
Yeah. JK asks, have we ever done any time, speed, distance road rallying? Any thoughts on it? I think our usual answer is not really that interested. It's just
yeah. I don't need to do math while driving. I've done one before, and I didn't find it particularly interesting.
I don't want to do math while driving and then find out I need to slow down.
Yeah.
Those two activities are things I'm not that interested in.
Yeah, I think my version of time, speed, distance is Google Maps tells me it's 2 hours and 42 minutes to get somewhere. I'm beating that motherfucker. That's
right. Really? Oh, really, Google? Do you think that's what can be done? I'll show you. Mm-hmm. Dan Mosqueda, what's the update on the Hawthorne location of WCCS?
Construction will start soon. There's not, unfortunately, nothing beyond that. Permits take a real long fucking time, as we have learned over and over again.
Thomas Wilkes, he got bit by the BMW bug, so he went and bought a Z3 3.0 coupe as a project. It's in excellent shape, just needs a few things. What he did not anticipate was the cost of Z3 coupe specific parts. It's hard to find things like glass, a windshield gasket's $400. So he says, should I sell it for a few grand profit and get an E36 instead? I like how the coupe drives, but he's just cautious when driving it.
Well, I would say that's a good point for everybody who's buying. When you're buying a small production volume car that doesn't share a lot of parts with other cars, you get into that. So the example provided, the Z3 versus the E36, right? The E36, window glass, gaskets, window switches, little things like that are shared across a wide variety of products. Whereas with the Z3, they made fewer of them. And so they have a lot of parts that are specific to just them, harder to find and more expensive. You find the same thing with Corvettes, right? Corvettes are just GM, right? When it comes to the engine, the transmission, stuff like that. But if you need weather stripping, or you need a blinker stock, or you need a window switch, or, you find that, holy shit, these are actually very expensive parts because they only fit this one car. Same thing with the Acura NSX. Same reason I said that people shouldn't buy a Mercedes 600. They should buy a 500, because the 500 shares parts across an enormous number of vehicles, and they're much, much cheaper. Whereas the 600 has hundreds of unique parts that are much, much more expensive. So talking about the parts this dude was just talking about, window glass and weather stripping, those are the kind of things you only buy once. You're not replacing your window glass and your weather stripping every year. So if you've already bought a bunch of shit that you're only going to need once, you're already into this, and you might as well continue driving the car that you like, right? Maintaining it mechanically is only incrementally different from an E36, right? Because the powertrain is going to be very similar. If you've already bought all that shit, you're not going to have to buy it again. But if you foresee a bunch of stuff coming up in the future that is unique to only the Z3 coupe, then, maybe take your money and buy something that has a little more universal parts availability. Yeah. But it's good. It's good advice for someone looking to get into a budget vintage car, or a budget, project car, or even something that looks nice on the surface, but will have needs that need addressing over the next few years.
I think it's also good advice if you're shopping for any car that's not a mass market car, because like the window seal thing.
The fucking Pao, dude. You know what it took me to find a radiator hose for a Pao?
Well,
I mean, a stupid fucking radiator. You know, this car is a cheap little 1 liter fucking nothing econo box, you know, but it required hours of my time to source these parts, and they weren't that cheap, you know, for what they were.
Like the E46 rear window seal, if you buy it from BMW, is over $1,000, and that's a car they made the 330, they made 325s, like they made a lot of them. So I think to this guy's point, it's, if we're enthusiasts, we're always like, well, what are the mechanicals like? How much do they cost? But sometimes these trim pieces, these gaskets, these interior parts are way more expensive than you think. So it's a good advice to like look into those costs before you buy the car.
Yeah.
Austin has an extremely, well, not a broad question. There's a lot of answers to his good question. What are the best GT cars for touring that are under 100 grand for like trips through the Black Hills, Yellowstone, down the 101? I mean, there are so many options.
So many options.
Like pick an OEM, basically. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, in the sports car leaning area, you know, pick a 911. You know, what's the nicest 911 you're going to buy under 100 grand? You know, pick a Corvette, as long as it's not a shit box. You know, as long as it's not beat up, it should be, you know, great for that kind of thing. You know, the Acura NSX, the first gen car is lovely. You know, BMW, you know, the M
a used M2 CS for that money.
Yeah, or even if you wanted bigger and cushier, the M6/M8, the twin turbo M6. I mean, those are excellent. You know, used Bentley GTs, they're a little more to maintain, but excellent at that kind of thing.
All the F-type you could ever ask for.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Audi RS5, though that would be excellent. F-type, excellent.
Aston. You know, I'm a big fan of 2+2s for any GT car. You have a little bit more space, you can lean back more versus NSX or you know, other mid-engine cars. You don't have that kind of reclining thing. Oscar Negron says, for similar money, would you get an Elantra N or a used Mark 7 Golf R as a do everything?
I mean, I liked, if it was very lightly used, probably the Mark 7 Golf R. I just thought the seats were more comfortable. But if the Elantra N fits you better physically, you know, that's a individual kind of question. You get a warranty.
Warranty is the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like 10-year, 100,000 mile. Like if you can afford to maintain the Golf R, I'd rather get the Golf R as well, just for aesthetic reasons, all-wheel drive, all that stuff. But that's really like a finance question. Jake is first-time manual owner. He just ordered a 2023 BRZ. And I'd say our tips are to go watch your 2-part how to drive a manual transmission video.
Oh, look at this. EV Go has just DM'd me on Instagram. We apologize for the charging trouble you experienced. We completed a network-wide update this week, and after our maintenance period was complete, our payment system took a bit longer to come back online. We would love to connect with you directly about this and do whatever we can to help.
Daniel Berman asks, what is it about Germans in Germany that causes them to produce vehicles of a much higher sophistication, quality, and general competence compared to other countries?
You ever been to fucking Germany? They take shit seriously over there. I mean, Germans take driving and cars very seriously. Whether it's the construction of the roads, you know, Germans if there's a pothole, they don't fill the fucking pothole. They cut out a whole section of road and repave the whole section. Their standards for inspection every year are much, much higher than anyone else. Their attitude towards things that are built well, they don't design for planned obsolescence the way that we do. Their the fact that their roads, sections of them have unlimited speed sections. Their cars are designed to be more stable at speed, safer in a high speed crash, and all that kind of stuff. And so that goes to their driver training as well. It takes a lot more to get a driver's license in Germany than it does in other countries, except maybe like Finland or something. But they Germans take roads, cars, and driving very, very seriously, and much more seriously than they do in a lot of other places.
Yeah, I don't know enough about their culture to have the answer to this, but they take engineering seriously. Like it's like the pride of the country almost. So I'm wondering how long ago that began, but you can see it in everything you use there. The train system, airports, cars, roads, like they just think it through and do it about as well as you could do it, instead of how well can you do this for the littlest amount of money. Like I was just reading that potholes here, when they fill them with patch here, it'll basically last a few weeks before water, sun, and tires just break it down and kick that out of the hole, and then the hole is a hole again.
Yeah.
Versus cutting the section out and repaving the entire section. It's like a totally different approach.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. We both have $100,000 to spend on one watch and one car. The goal is to lose as little money as possible and then sell them both in 12 years. So what would we pick?
Future markets, very tough. But if you spent $75,000 on a Ferrari 348 GTS, if you could get that, I think you probably could. It'd have some miles on it. 94 Ferrari 348 GTS for $75,000. And then you spent $25,000 on a great but used Rolex GMT Master like this one, Pepsi. I think you'd have a pretty safe investment, excluding maintenance on the Ferrari. But if we're just talking about money in, you could switch that Ferrari out for I would say a 964 manual transmission cabriolet, because a good coupe is going to be probably more than 75 now.
I think I would try to stretch to spend like 99 on a Ferrari 360 coupe, and then I'd get a G-Shock. And I know that the G-Shock might be worth, 80% less than when I bought it, but it would be $500 to start. But I think
there you go. That's a strategy.
So
that is a strategy.
I'll bet that, because I don't know shit about watches.
that is a strategy, though.
This is a little bit hypothetical. Jerry Striner, which would be better driving experience as a Grand Tourer, the upcoming Porsche 911 hybrid or the C8 hybrid?
The 911 just based on cabin space.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I can't imagine if we're just going on I don't know, who knows about the powertrain, but like cabin space, the 911 will be comfier for a long drive.
Yeah. Think of like 12 hours in a car where you can't lean back that far.
Vets are tight. They are. They're okay, but they're tight.
Have you driven Audi Q4 e-tron?
No.
Okay. Neither have I. Prashant was testing cars to replace his Honda Fit, and he thinks the last gen WRX was incredibly underwhelming. It was like a nicely modded example. Oh, it was a nicely modded example, and it still felt just like a fast Corolla. I think the WRX has been such a strong member of the enthusiast society that it has tricked everybody into thinking it didn't start life as an economy car.
Yeah.
Like that's it. It's based on Subaru's Corolla.
Yeah.
Which has an engine.
Yeah.
So
sounds
sorry
right.
to disappoint you, but that's it.
Yeah.
We'll do one more. Okay. Last one. Bud 215. His daily commute is like 15 minutes commute out of Philly and into South Jersey, mostly highway, some side streets. He's so close to buying an SUV because the sedan market is, quote, seems to be me and 5 other guys. What are some sedans that remind you of sports sedan? Or sorry, what are some SUVs that remind you of sports sedans and the way they drive?
Macan. I mean, the Macan is going to be your gold standard there.
Yeah.
You could also go with the SQ5, which is not quite as sporty, but still very nice.
I think the SRT Jeeps are kind of like E39 M5s. Like they usually have a little bit more lean and heft to them than the Macans. They don't feel as light on their feet, but they got the noise.
Yeah, the SRT Durangos are underrated and pretty good too if you need a 3-row.
That's a good point.
You know, we just had to go in the MDX Type S, which didn't remind me of a sedan so much, but I thought its dynamics for what it was were pretty good. If you wanted to go cheaper, you know, the CX-5 is not particularly fast, but has really nice steering. The Acura RDX is pretty decent, pretty agile. But if you can afford it, I mean, the Macan is really the gold standard of sporty crossovers for sure. I haven't driven a GV70, but people seem to like those a lot.
That's true. I've heard very good things. They're very pretty.
Zach didn't preview these because he was.
No, I did. Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot
selective.
of them. Hey guys, I have a 99 Aero Kit 911 that I don't drive during the winter, Pennsylvania. I'm looking to pick up something in the next few months to serve as a fun throw around car that still handles decently. He's looking at E90 330s, 328i manuals, or 128i manuals, but he has a brand new truck, so he doesn't need all-wheel drive, and snow driving is not a problem. Just like a fun manual for the winter. So winter beater that doesn't suck for under 10 grand.
Under 10?
I would not buy a BMW.
Under 10.
I would not buy a BMW that is that modern for under 10 grand.
Yeah, I mean, under 10, 10's really not a lot of money right now. I mean, it's just
also a good point.
It's just not. I mean, and people have been buying up enthusiast cars over the last 2 years. It just won't get you that much, to be honest. Like, it might get you like a not great E30. Like, it might get you like an okay Civic.
Or it might get you an okay E46, but not like a 328. Something like that. Like I would do that. I would not stretch to an E90 for that money because that car will be thrashed.
It'll be a piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a BMW for $10,000 that doesn't need, you know, a $10,000 BMW needs $10,000 in something. You know, like,
it's going to be rough. It might get one that's mechanically sound and
like I'd rather have a Corolla XRS, like with the 1ZZ with the 1ZZ engine or 2ZZ engine or whatever it is, you know, something like that.
Those with a manual are under 10 grand because I was looking recently, and that engine zips. Like they're kind of quick,
pretty decent,
and that will run forever. So that would be a good
Matrix. There was a Matrix that had that one too. Like that could be. Those are pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I for under 10, it's you know, I'm not trying to be elitist or anything, but that's not a lot of money for a car that any enthusiast would want.
Right. In today's with what has happened with the car market. 2 years ago, the world was almost your oyster. You get a Spec Miata for under 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or get an Impreza. It won't have a turbo on it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Do that. A couple people asked us to have Camisa and Derek Tam Scott on the show. We would love to have them on if they come down here. What do you think about Porsche design watches?
You know, they're well made. I understand why somebody would be into them. They have a thing now where you can match one to your car if you wanted to do that kind of thing. You can they have like an online configurator similar to the car configurator, and you can get one that's a semi-custom piece. And they have an interesting history as well. They're not, they're by far, when it comes to car watch overlap partnerships, it's by far the least corny of them. Having said that, they've never made a watch that when I saw it, I went, I've got to have that. And their secondary resale value is not great.
Mm-hmm. They're often a bit busy in the design. When I've seen them in the Porsche stores, they're a little busy.
Some of their designs are busier than others. They're almost all chronographs, which inherently will make for a busier dial. But there's folks who are super into them. Rod Emery and Magnus and those guys, like, they fucking love those things. Tom Cruise wears one in Top Gun, and he's wearing the same one in Top Gun Maverick, which I hear is fucking awesome. I can't wait to see that shit.
Yeah.
I might even go back to a movie theater to see.
I'm totally gonna go to an IMAX for that.
Yeah, I would see that in IMAX.
I'll have good antibodies. So
it's gonna take a lot to get me to go into a fucking movie theater, but I would go for that. It's definitely like if I see someone wearing the Breitling Bentley collaboration, I will fucking roll my eyes so far down my fucking back of my head that they'll come out my ass. But because it's just silly. But the Porsche design they're real watches, and they're very nice. And if the design speaks to you, then they are as authentic as a car watch collaboration gets.
Nice. Peter Mankey said, SNL Coffee Talk. With the upcoming GR trim versus base trim, the Corolla will be the most and yet at least interesting car in Toyota's lineup. Talk amongst yourselves. It's the same thing as like the STI though. It's and in the Golf R, it's just like take econo car, add power, rally car.
Yeah. No, it looks excellent. I without driving it, while just looking at photos, looking at specs, and looking at that, it seems like they've made a lot of right decisions. Will the fine tuning of it and will the experience from the driver's seat match expectations? I hope so. I'm not sure. They literally stamped Akio's signature on the shifter. So I hope that means that they're, really standing behind the dynamics of the product.
The dynamics of the Yaris have been touted very highly by people we respect very much, right. Harris included. So hopefully the same engineers were on this and they can make it translate, and it should work. Should work.
Exactly.
Literally final question. Best bang for your buck, 20, 30 grand range. Needs to be able to serve daily driver duties, manual transmission, fun and twisties. Looking at GTI, Hyundai N, Mustang, Civic Si. Is a C6 a good choice at this price point? There's a lot of Corvettes for that money.
To address Corvettes first, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, it's all about those maintenance items that are specific to Corvettes. And C6s are now, 15, how many years old? What's the range? 06 to 13, right? So the oldest ones, are getting
16
old.
years old.
And just from my experience with my C5, when it got to that age, there started to be some of those expensive things that needed addressing. The weather stripping around the roof was $1,000, and I sucked it up and did some of that stuff. But that a Corvette is a great, if your plan is I'm going to get into this car and I have I'm going to keep money on the side to maintain it as necessary, then it's great. If not, it's going to fall apart.
Would you rather daily a Corvette or a Mustang? Like, you owned a C5 and they can be very practical. They have a lot of like cargo space and stuff, but are they a little bit low
they
for
scrape
driveways?
The front ends.
Right.
They scrape all the time. They didn't have a nose. They're very low without a nose lift. So they scrape a lot. They are, if you live in the right type of place, then they're fine. If you live in a city or, they're not great. If you live somewhere with really smooth roads, they're fine. I think Mustangs are a little more practical Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that. I think, if you needed a back seat, for even if it was very occasionally, you could get someone in the back of one of those. Whereas with a Corvette, you're really limited to two people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
a Veloster N is awesome if you can get the warranty, if the warranty's still going on it. Like,
yeah,
where GTI will probably won't have a warranty for 20 grand, it'll probably be too used at that point. But
yeah.
if you can't get a warranty, I'd go Civic Si or Mustang. The Mustangs are pretty bulletproof.
Yeah, they're pretty stout. Camaros are too.
Oh, true.
Yeah. And there's what else is there? The 86 twins, 20 to 30 grand gets you a bunch of 86. I don't know if there's ADM going on right now. I haven't really followed up on that, but hopefully there isn't. And what else have we driven? Mazda. What is a Mazda 3 Turbo? Those are nice too. Are those under 30? I don't think.
Mazda
I think they're like
touring.
No, the newer one. I think those are like probably the
one
lowest.
was 36.
Oh, was it? Okay,
it was,
so
but if it's you can get a used one. But the one we drove was 36.
Yeah. I mean, I would stick with the knowns, the 86s, the Mustang Camaro, and Corvettes are great as far as a cheap buy-in. And they're stout in terms of you're probably not going to blow the engine, you're probably not going to blow the gearbox, but just other little stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
That's our Zoom show. Hopefully Zach is able to come back into the studio sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'll take a test tomorrow probably.
What do we have? What do we have next week? We've got
Tommy Fuck Yeah.
Tommy F Yeah on Monday. I hope you're good for that.
Yeah.
And then fucking Pearl Jam next weekend. Yeah, buddy. There's going to be some good times for me. 3 nights of Pearl Jam next week.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody for your questions. Thank you for being a patron, and wish Zach speedy recovery. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Adios.